Welcome to our explainer. Today we've got a story about a problem that completely stumped a family for 2 whole years. But the craziest part isn't the problem itself, it's that the solution was sitting right in front of them the entire time. And it tells us something really fascinating about how all of our brains work.
So let me just start by asking you this. Think about some problem you're dealing with right now, big or small. What if the most obvious, simple solution is the one thing you are completely, totally blind to?
Okay, so our story begins with this 2 year mystery, and it all revolves around 3 characters: a dad named Sujay, his daughter Ria, and a brand new family pet. See, Ria really, really wanted a pet, and she convinced her parents that a hamster would be perfect because, it's easy to maintain. And they agreed. So the hamster moves in, and right away it becomes this little celebrity in the house. Ria would spend hours talking to it. But just a few weeks later, something weird starts to happen. Sujay develops this really persistent, nagging, stuffy nose that just would not go away. And this right here is where things start to get really interesting, because this annoying little symptom kicks off a 2 year-long goose chase for all the wrong answers. Just look at this timeline of errors. It shows you just how far they went down the wrong rabbit hole. At first, Sujay blamed the usual suspects. His sinuses, maybe pollution. Then, about a month in, they literally ripped out a brand new carpet, thinking that had to be it. Nope. As the months dragged on, it got so bad that a doctor actually suggested surgery for a nasal obstruction. Can you believe that? 2 years go by, and they're seriously considering an operation, all while the real cause is just sitting there in a cage in their living room. And Sujay was actually thinking about going through with the surgery. But his wife, Richa, just had this gut feeling that something wasn't right. She stepped in and told him, "No, wait. There has to be another cause." And wow, that turned out to be a crucial decision, one that stopped him from having a completely unnecessary medical procedure. So, at this point, they're at a total dead end. But then, an accidental cure happens. A simple change in their day-to-day lives was about to blow the whole case wide open. The big breakthrough came from something that had nothing to do with Sujay's health. His wife Richa got accepted into a college in another city. So as she was packing up her things, she decided to take the hamster with her for company. And just like that, without even realizing it, the problem was removed from the house. The effect was immediate. Just a few days after Richa and the hamster left, Sujay noticed something unbelievable. That constant stuffy nose, the discomfort he'd been living with for 2 years, it was gone. He could breathe clearly. The problem had literally vanished overnight. And the realization hit them like a ton of bricks. It was sudden and it was shocking. In Sujay's own words, "It was due to the hamster. I was simply allergic to its fur. Why didn't we think of it at all?" The answer had been there in their home for 2 solid years. So, the big question is why? Why did they miss it? Well, this brings us to the core idea of our whole explainer today, the blind spot of affection. It's this invisible force that completely clouded their judgment. Okay, let's break this down. This blind spot of affection is basically what happens when our feelings get in the way of seeing reality. For Sujay, it was his love for his daughter and not wanting to upset her. But this isn't just about pets. This blind spot can apply to our attachment to a favorite idea we have, a belief we've held forever, or even a project at work that's clearly failing. This table really shows how their emotions built this massive blind spot. Look at the hamster. The emotional thought was, "It makes our daughter happy." That completely overshadowed the cold, hard data. It's the source of the allergen. And then there's Sujay's past. He just assumed, hey, I grew up with dogs, so I can't be allergic to pets. But the reality is you can develop allergies at any time. But here's the kicker, the biggest clue they missed, the evidence. They assumed something in the house was the problem, right? But they totally ignored the one piece of data that didn't fit. Sujay felt perfectly fine whenever he traveled for work, which meant he was away from the hamster. It's like Richa said so wisely, love blinds us in many ways. Their love for Ria and their deep desire to see her happy made it almost impossible for them to even consider that her adorable little pet could be the villain of the story. So how do we learn from their mistake, right? How do we find the hamster in our own lives, that obvious solution that we're somehow missing? Well, let's look at a really simple way to get to the root cause of our own blind spots. Okay, here's a simple 3-step blind spot check you can use. First, identify all your assumptions. What do you just believe is true about this problem, maybe because of your past experiences? Sujay assumed he just wasn't an allergy person. So, what are your assumptions? Second, question your emotional attachments. Are you avoiding a certain solution because it would be really uncomfortable? Or maybe it would hurt someone's feelings? Maybe you don't want to admit that a project you started isn't working out. And third, look for conflicting data. Find those small, nagging facts that don't quite fit your main theory. For Sujay, it was the simple fact that his symptoms disappeared on work trips. These are the clues hiding in plain sight.
And that brings us to our final thought. It really leaves us with a powerful question to chew on. What are you overlooking in your own life because of love or a habit or just an old assumption you've never questioned? What's your hamster?